In this video, we're going to take a look at a brown ink by PensBBS, their number 135. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to a playlist of other brown inks, so if you're interested in that, you can find those there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, some shading. Look at the 135 is working its way darker to lighter. There is some of that in the BBS as well. The extra fine is lighter than the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it does shade very well. Light to dark in the light on the bottom of the B, dark on the top of the B, dark in the R, lighter in the O, W, dark in the N. Very nice. Over goes light to dark, jumps goes light to dark, 11 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. Yes, it shades. Brown's going dark to lighter to dark at the end of the N. Jumps goes light to dark to light. Over goes light to dark. Very nice shading here, 15 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show a little bit of color variation, but it's much nicer in the writing. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then, a Pelican P200 with a fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, minor ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, only a couple spots of shading, the K in quick, the BR in brown, and X in fox, 17 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, still some shading. Quick is very dark, brown goes darker to lighter, fox goes lighter to darker, but then the rest of it is very dark until we get to the end of lazy and dog. 24 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us very little color variation, and we do get some in both of the writings. And the smear test, you could not recover it at all if you smear while you're writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see, as we move up here, a very, very light, super light pink on the bottom. We see an orange-ish tone, and then we get that red-leaning brown, very dark, moving its way up at the top, and on the very top, a very light turquoise. Now the one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes, and there is no difference between the two of these. We can expect no resistance here. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade very nicely as fox goes light to dark, brown goes dark to light, the goes light to dark. Over, lighter to darker, the very dark, 13 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine, not darker than the stub, with no feather spread, or not as dark as the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen, decent shading, brown going dark to light, fox going light to dark. The very dark word compared to what's around it. Over light to dark, 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both does show us some color variation, and we're definitely getting it in the writing. And the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I don't use it in a note-taking situation. A lot of blowouts going on here. I feel that while I can see what was written, I think you're a good day versus a bad day away from losing that information in your notes. Now, water's starting to reactivate and lifting most of these tones off the page. It is leaving some. Pen Flush does everything that water does and a little bit more. You see towards the bottom of that Pen Flush and the very top of it, you see where some of the white of the paper is coming through. So the good news is if water didn't work for some reason, Pen Flush will easily do it, though it only took water to get it out of my pen. And the 1/3 bleach solution that you're not going to need completely obliterates it. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. We're not looking to see any kind of performance difference. We're really looking to see the tone changes that can occur. And what I am seeing is that it actually shades a little bit less. Again, we're not really looking at performance, but it does become a bit darker, a little bit darker of a brown, and a little more uniform in tone, as in the extra fine is a little darker than it was on the white. The medium seems unaffected, the stub seems unaffected. So it's for the most part seems to be pretty opaque, but just to have an idea of what would happen if you worked on that in an office environment. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. PensBBS number 135 has a viscosity of 1.82, making it wet. Now, if you're interested in how the viscosity and all that's done, there's a link to that video down in the description. Let's take a look at the next writing sample done on black and red notebooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, some shade, like the N in pen is darker than the rest of the word. The right side of the second B is much darker than the rest. The extra fine is lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade some. Brown goes dark to light. Quick goes dark to light in the Q, but then works its way very dark quickly. The goes light to dark. 6 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, just a tad lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. Little spots of shading, like the B in brown starts light to dark. Over starts lighter, gets darker. The starts lighter and gets darker. 8 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both do show a tiny bit of color variation. It shows its way through. And while there's more of it in the medium, it's a very gentle in and out. I think it looks better here than it does in the extra fine. The smear test says you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. PensBBS number 135 has an average dry time of 16 seconds, making it normal. The last writing sample is done on white lines paper. Now, strangely, we see a lot of spots up here where it's coming heavily into the paper. It's not coming through the paper. We do get a couple of spots that occur here. Now, what's strange is this is the medium, this is the extra fine, and here's where the stub is. So it's not coming through and touching the back of the page. It's not even stopping you from using the back of the page, because I think if you used both sides, you would still be able to get all of that information. It's only a problem if it's a problem for you. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is dark like the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 7 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows no color variation, and we're not getting it. And the smear test, yes, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like PensBBS 135, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, because of that chromatography having that blue across the top, I decided to go with a blue ink, one by Callifolio, their Mediterranean blue. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those different color playlists. So what do I think of PensBBS number 135? This is such a nice red-leaning brown that gives beautiful shading. I can see burning through a bottle of this really fast. It's just great to look at. And look at the amazing color on cream paper. Wow. So what nib and pen will give the best writing experience with this ink? I really do think that any pen, regardless of its flow, is going to put very nice color down on the page. It's just a matter of, do you want a nice darker red leaning brown, or do you want that shading? If you want the darker red leaning brown, then go for that wet pen. Nib doesn't matter. Same if you went with a medium or dry pen, but you're gonna get the shading then, and I don't think the nib is gonna make that much of a difference in how nice this ink looks on the paper. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're gonna take a look at Diamine's Purple Dream.